New drug derived from fish reduce the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and deaths in high-risk patients. Well, that sent shares of its drug maker, Amarin, surging today, more than 300% higher. Elsewhere on Wall Street, though, the news not so promising. The Dow took a tumble down 181 points as new tariffs on billions worth of Chinese imports went into effect today. Somehow, though, the Nasdaq managed a gain of 6. Sears could be in real trouble. Its CEO considering selling off more land where stores used to be, and even selling its highly regarded Kenmore appliance brand just to stave off bankruptcy. SiriusXM is buying Pandora for $3.5 billion in stock. It's adding 70 more million listeners. And Weight Watchers changing its name to WW with a new tagline, Wellness That Works. It's also changing its focus to overall health, not just losing weight and dieting. Tom Busby, CNBC.
When working at a growing business, you wear many hats. The new business hat, the buying toner for the copy machine hat, the sifting through tons of resumes hat. You can throw away that last hat thanks to Indeed.com. When posting your job, Indeed lets you add screener questions that give you a less time-consuming route to your short list of qualified candidates. So go ahead, dust off that extra long lunch hat. Hiring's better when you've got your short list. Save time on hiring when you post a job on Indeed. Get started today at Indeed.com/hire.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh says he's not going anywhere as he defends himself against sexual assault allegations.
I'm not going to let false accusations drive us out of this process, and we're looking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity.
In an interview on Fox News, the federal judge denied the accusations against him, saying he's never sexually assaulted anyone. The president isn't answering questions about if he plans to fire Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. In New York today, Trump said he will meet with Rosenstein at the White House on Thursday. Disgraced comedian Bill Cosby will soon find out what consequence he'll face after being convicted of sexual assault. Tomorrow, he'll find out how much time, if any, he'll have to serve for drugging and sexually assaulting former Temple University athletic staffer Andrea Constand at his home in 2004. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This segment is sponsored by Tammy Sutherland of Coldwell Banker Kivett Teeters Realty, where she makes it her business to put happy people in happy homes. It's Tammy Sutherland's passion to list your house and put you in just the right house that you could call home.
She made so much extra effort to sell our house and make sure that we understood every step of the way. Tammy always had our best interests at heart.
I didn't think we'd ever find a house we loved, but with Tammy's help, we did. Now I get to mow the lawn every weekend. But then again, that's why we had kids. Hey, Tyler!
Tammy did way more than we ever expected in a real estate agent. Without Tammy, we would still be renting.
So if you want your perfect house, contact Tammy Sutherland at Coldwell Banker Kivett Teeters Realty in Yucaipa, across from Yucaipa High School. Whether you're looking to buy or sell, it's homesbytammy.net or on Facebook at facebook.com/Realtor Tammy Sutherland at 909-556-2094 for Realtor Tammy Sutherland, and we thank her for her support.
Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you always tired and worn out? Is it affecting your work and personal life? Well, South Pacific Sleep Lab can help you out. South Pacific Sleep Lab provides a personal study of your sleep patterns. With their trained specialists, they will diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
Listen to KCAA Loma Linda for less confrontation and more information.
now. It's For the People with Judge Herb Dodell.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We said the same thing the last time, actually. We may have a very special guest again today, Roger Stone. We had such a good interview the last time, which played on July the 23rd, in case anybody wants to hear it, because I listened to it this morning. To refresh my recollections, I wouldn't ask him the same questions today. But Roger's committed to appear today at 4:15, at least on the phone. And hopefully he will be there because I've written all kinds of questions for him. If not, I don't know about plan B. It's going to be very extemporaneous.
Well, you can ask me Roger Stone questions and I'll be Roger Stone. How's that?
Okay, yeah, we could do a little of that.
Sure.
Why not? But I wanted to mention, because I've mentioned it so many times before, there'll be people who will be listening to this show that generally don't listen to the show because they're interested in Roger Stone. And that's a reality. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we do and what the shows are about. So you know, the purpose of the show is fourfold. One is to provide information to the public as to how the legal system works from the inside. I practiced law full-time for over 50 years, and I've been a Superior Court Judge pro tem since it's almost 10 years now. So I've got a fairly wide experience to give you information. If you just want to learn a little history and you want to think about some of these subject matters because it's an interesting subject, that's great. Number two, I'll give you guidelines. No advice, but guidelines. What do I mean by guidelines? Guidelines is if you get caught in the system or you're about to be caught in the system, what do? How do you get a lawyer? Who the judge is going to be? How much is it going to cost you? What are your likelihood of winning? What can you wait for in terms of how much time it's going to take? Lots and lots of questions. So we respond to people's inquiries when they get a hold of me at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. I try to respond to anybody who asks questions. I keep track of them, and I use some of the material to and not only answer the question on the air, but to provide others who are experiencing the same thing or about to experience the same thing, some of the things they can expect. Because one of the biggest problems in litigation for the lay person is the lack of expectation. They don't know what's going to happen. And when you're in that kind of position, you feel a little anxious, a little nervous. What do you do? There's no certainty because you don't know where it's going. And when you're uncertain, when you're fearful, when you're stressed, not good for your health. So we give you guidelines.
That's why I went running.
That's
why I went running 3 miles before the show today.
Get rid of your stress?
Yeah, I lifted for about a half hour, and then I ran my 3 miles on the treadmill to get rid of my stress.
Well, you think Roger's going to show today?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, I booked him, so I talked to his publicist and, talked to her this morning and said he was ready to go. So at 4:15, we'll give him a call. And,
we're going to find out very soon.
We'll find out. If not, I'll give you back your check. How's that?
Okay. Whatever. The reality is...
I'm good. I'm really good, aren't I?
But the third thing, I don't want to lose track of the 4 items here. It's like
well, you're on number what?
It's like I'm on number 3.
Okay, there you go.
Number 3 is
having
I
a
give you
Corona.
cases.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We give you real cases. In fact, plan B for today is probably to give you a real case. And I'm thinking of one to give you. But the purpose of that, other than the fact that the cases are really interesting and they're all real, but if it happened to somebody else, there's a good possibility that it could happen to you. And so if you know what's happened to others along the way, you probably will be better prepared if anything that's close to that's going to happen to you in your life. And the fourth is the spiritual twist. Because I have believed, and I was oftentimes have said, that it's all about cause and effect. What you get is what you give. You throw rocks at people, they're going to throw rocks back at you. Send them flowers, they probably just keep the flowers. But the reality is...
Really, Judge?
Well, there's a way to control and turn chaos like you have organized, controlled chaos is what it says. You can control the chaos and turn it into order and fulfillment by just following spiritual tools that are universal.
Amen.
It's not about religion. We don't do religion. In fact, even Roger says in his book that basically all the same religions have the same basic concept, which is do it to others.
Yeah.
Before they do it to you, or something like that, right?
You read the book, didn't you?
I did. I read the book cover to cover.
Stone rules.
One thing I decided that I'm not going to do in the future, I'm not going to have a tie and a pocket silk that match. Roger says that's a very bad sign.
Okay.
And he says, don't wear baggy pants.
You going to get a Nixon tattoo? He has one. You know that.
There's a picture in his book with the tattoo.
Yes.
He's got some very nice, interesting pictures in there.
He's got some very interesting stories.
He really had a love affair with Dick Nixon.
He
called him Dick Nixon, and then somebody came along and said, "Don't call yourself Dick Nixon. Call yourself Richard M. Nixon."
All right.
So they changed it. But the most amazing thing when I put the book down, truly, and I said to my wife, I said, "You know what? What Trump did to get elected and what he's doing now is exactly Roger Stone's rules. It's amazing. I mean, it absolutely runs parallel. As he would say it, I always underline things in books. I said, wow, that's exactly the way he does things. So when I told Roger the last time that he did a brilliant campaign to get Trump elected, and I'm apolitical, I'm not for, I'm not against, I have no judgments. I basically just watch things unfold. And as bench officers, as judges, we have to evaluate things. And some of the things are credibility, reliability, integrity, honesty, things of that nature. But we don't really decide anything other than on the basis of admissible evidence. So I don't know really what's going on with the Russia probe because I don't know.
Yeah.
One side doesn't tell you anything. And the other side followed Roger's rules, which I'll talk about with Roger.
Yeah.
If Roger shows.
Well, listen, Judge, please don't put the pressure on me like this. All right. I have enough pressure in my life with taking care of my younger brother. Okay, please.
But you're a true gentleman. What you do, people don't know about you, that I know about you. You are a remarkable, soulful person. And you will be rewarded based on the spiritual principles of sharing and giving gets you back. Sharing and giving.
It ain't gonna be down here though. I'm waiting for Nirvana to hit me, if you know what I mean. I'm waiting for the next realm.
Look, this could be Nirvana, or it could be the other thing.
This is not Nirvana.
We pick our experiences. But I also mentioned the other night we were having dinner. I said, on the challenges that we had over the years, practicing as long as I did and everything else. When I look back and I say to myself, you know what? Either that was the right thing to happen or I learned something major or significant from it so I didn't have to repeat it a second time. So that's really one of the spiritual messages really is pay attention.
I agree.
And if something's going down that's not so terrific for you, there's light in it, believe it or not. And you find that many people, when they reach the bottoms, is when they have these revelations, these epiphanies, and it changes their whole life.
I'm having revelations every day, if you know what I mean. Every day, I'm having revelations because I'm down there fighting the good fight for humanity.
And you're fighting for truth and justice?
And the American way. Yes.
We always say we fight for truth and justice, and if it prevails, we appeal.
I do fight for humanity.
Like you were saying, it's all about dignity and respect.
And respect and dignity, and believe me, and somebody disrespects me or I see it wherever it is, I call it out. I just call it out. That's the way it is.
See, that's one of my negative comments, not being overly cynical about the judicial system. It isn't really fair.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, there's lots of variations. I'm going to talk about if we don't talk to Roger.
All right, let's go. Let me call him. Let me call him right now.
Great show, Ozark.
All right, let me call him. All right.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, back with For the People, Judge Herb Dodell, right after this with Roger Stone. I know he's going to call in. I got a bet on it. All right, hold on.
10:50 a.m. KCAA.
Herb Dodell is a lawyer and a judge for the people. Having served as a Superior Court judge, presiding over more than 9,000 cases, he has witnessed firsthand how complicated and corrupt the legal system can be. His goal is to show how things really work in the legal system so that people can navigate the legal system in the best way for them. Many people often feel marginalized by the legal system and are uninformed about how to proceed when unfortunate circumstances arise in their life. Judge Herb will pull back the curtain, lift the veil, so people can truly understand their rights, have access to top legal personnel that they can trust, and have knowledge about how things work so they can make better choices. Judge Herb isn't just knowledgeable. His integrity and spiritual values are truly what make him different. He cares about democratizing access and information for all and desires to turn on the light so the people, you, can benefit. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Well, good afternoon, and good afternoon to you, Roger.
Delighted to be with you again.
You have no idea how delighted I am that you're here, because I had no plan B. You were plan A with no plan B. So I'm glad you're there. I want you to know I read your book cover to cover, and when I put it down, I said to myself, it's absolutely amazing what this man has written, because all of the conduct that he describes, your rules, are what President Trump did when he was running for president and what he's doing now. I said he's following Roger Stone's playbook. So it's quite remarkable. You did a better job than I thought you did the first time when I talked about how successful you were. Great job.
Well, that's very kind. You know, I've been in the American arena for 40 years, and in a certain sense, I guess I've seen it all. At the same time, you know, I'm not an insider. I'm not an establishment thinker. I'm not a machine politician. I try to think outside the box. It's important to recognize the extent to which the internet has changed everything, has really democratized our politics with a small d. And now they seek to roll it back through a campaign of censorship, where voices on the right, particularly, are being shadow banned and censored. They're really trying to go back to the days when a handful of media outlets really controlled our political discourse, and where, well, like radio shows like this didn't have the kind of impact that they have today.
Well, that's
radio and the internet have really changed the face of our politics.
Well, you made a point to that in your book, and I made note of it because I think you're absolutely right. But I don't know if I go along with an argument of censorship. I think we have a very strong First Amendment. The fact that there are many more on the left that are buying time and spending money in advertising and promotion is just a function of how much money people are willing to invest in whatever the process may be. But I thought it was very interesting. I played our last interview, and I thought it was pretty good, actually. And you made a comment that there really is something like the deep state. You referred to Eisenhower's referring to it as the military-industrial complex. And I thought to myself, I've been thinking about that. Is there really a deal between both sides where they're really the same? Because that's what you said. McConnell and Nancy Pelosi, they're all of the same mold, and they're all going to do the same thing. The names change, but the policies really never do. There may be some merit in that. Because I was thinking, before the campaign really got into full play, there was a dialogue about cleaning out the swamp. But I've looked around. It doesn't look like the swamp got cleaned out. It looks like they just replaced it with a different swamp. And that kind of falls in with what you're saying.
I think I would argue that they didn't even replace it. I mean, look, I'm a strong supporter of the president, but I still think that even he has systematically surrounded himself with people who are tied to the past, who are tied to the policies that brought the country to its knees, and that he really, even in his own cabinet, has not succeeded in bringing in outsiders and tossing out the insiders. It's a mistake to think of our politics today in terms of Republicans and Democrats. That's outdated thinking. You've got to think in terms of outsiders and insiders. And when you get right down to it, the Bushes and the Clintons, while they talk a good game, they're really not different in any way. Their policies have given us endless foreign war, erosion of our civil liberties, a stagnant economy, a broken immigration system, trade deals that cost us jobs. And there's really no difference. At election time, they try to sound different, but it's a kabuki act for the voters. It's really a fraud upon the voters. Every once in a blue moon, an outsider like a Ronald Reagan or a Donald Trump comes along. And then when they do, the establishment, once they determine that they cannot beat them, they try to co-opt them. And to a great extent, that is unfortunately happening even today in this administration.
Is that the reason why they can't seem to get anything done in the Congress?
Well, I would argue he's gotten a lot done. 3.2 million new jobs, 4.6% economic growth, headed towards 6% in the next quarter, I think, just under it. Wages having the fastest growth in American history. Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment at the lowest point since they began keeping those statistics. Record stock market.
Well, let me ask you a psychological question. I know you're not a psychologist and you're not a lawyer, but it seems to me that there is a real dichotomy between the people who like him a lot and people who hate him. And I use that word advisedly. The question really is, are people going to continue to vote their pocketbook, which is what they've done historically, or are the people who dislike this man so much are going to take over because even if it's contrary to their own pocketbooks? What do you think?
That's the $64 million question, as they say. We're going to find out soon. One thing we know is that the polls in the past have been incorrect in terms of their predictions regarding this man. They badly underestimated his support in the presidential election. They may be making the same mistake again. There is definitely a factor out there of people who support the president but don't want to talk about it because they just don't want to put up with the crap from their neighbors or their critics who disagree. I see this as I move around. People recognize me and my long association with Donald Trump, and people who you would not expect come up and tell me quietly that they're in his corner and they support what he's doing. So his support may be understated. You're right. Traditionally, the economy has been the key underpinning for our politics. We're going to see how much of a factor it is in this next election. I would say this. If I were advising the president today, and I'm not, I'd be telling him to talk about it more. I don't think he talks about the economy more as much as he should. But I definitely think people are feeling the results of a rising tide lifting all boats.
Well, you also said in our last interview that 89% of the evangelicals supporting him. And despite all of the things that have come out and the Access Hollywood and Stormy Daniels and all of that, he still has almost 90% of the people on the Republican side, the evangelicals, who are supporting him despite that. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a key element of his base. Obviously, those people think his agenda is more important than his past. Also, as you know, Christians believe in forgiveness. It doesn't matter what you thought a year from now. What matters is what you feel today. It doesn't matter if you weren't right with Jesus, if you're right with him today. So I think that remains a key element of the president's support, but it's not enough by itself. He's going to have to reach, as he did in the election, beyond his base. If you examine it from a geographic point of view, Mitt Romney and John McCain couldn't carry Michigan. Donald Trump did. They couldn't carry Wisconsin. Donald Trump did. They couldn't carry Pennsylvania. Donald Trump did. They couldn't carry Ohio. Donald Trump did. Now, if you examine why, among blue-collar, ethnic, Catholic Democrats, working-class Democrats, Trump won votes that those other gentlemen, McCain and Romney, could not win. That's the real key vote. That's why I scratch my head when I see the president fighting with Richard Trumka, the president of the AFL-CIO, particularly when Trump and Trumka are substantially in agreement on trade policy and obviously the president's job creation program, which is good news for organized labor. I think that's an important constituency you got to keep your eyes on.
So you don't think that the hoopla about his personal habits and the way he treats things is going to make an ultimate difference? People are going to still
no. I don't think anybody cares. I really don't. I think they care more about whether they have a job, whether there's prospects for their children to have employment and a bright future. I think those matters are more important. Also, for reasons that I can't put my finger on, he's unlike any other political figure that I've worked for or that I have examined up close. He's a phenomena unto himself, and the rules, as you and I know them, that have been pretty standard for political figures in our country don't seem to apply to him. Well, so voters, at least so far, are overlooking the personal and looking at it more from a policy point of view.
That may very well be true. Now, there's a lot of things going on in the news today, and since we have a limited amount of time, I thought I'd kind of get your opinion. And it's not too difficult to get your opinion, actually. You're very good about that.
We love your opinion.
No, but you speak. Shoot. You speak it like it is. What do you think is going to happen with Kavanaugh? What do you think is going to happen with Kavanaugh?
Well,
the second lady just came out. This is a new phenomenon.
Yeah, this is a new phenomenon, though. I've never seen this before, where a woman can come out, no witnesses, no corroboration, no evidence, and just make a charge and have it be taken seriously, first of all, by the mainstream media, and then heralded by the Democrats. And the Republicans are afraid to ask the obvious question. Okay, lady, who else saw this? Who else did you tell when it happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? I think that both these witnesses are lying. They can't provide any basic corroboration. They would have no shot whatsoever to survive in a court of law. They put up no evidence. It's just the charge. Now, the standard rule in journalism in this country, in the Western world, has always believed you needed at least two sources to confirm something before you could write it as a fact.
Says that in the Bible.
And that seems to be out the window now.
Well, in fact,
out the window now.
But taking off the hat of just an interviewer for today and putting on the judge's cap, wig.
You are a judge.
Wig.
You are a judge. You don't have a wig, though, do you?
I don't have a wig. I haven't even got a gavel.
Okay.
There's a gavel in a drawer someplace. I know that there's a gavel someplace.
All right, there you go.
But the fact of the matter is, let's assume that there are three women who came out and all complained about basically the same thing, a sexual assault. There's statutes in the rules of evidence that allow prior events to come in as it's almost like an attack on character, but it basically allows a jury or a finder of fact to say if he did it before, the chances are that he did it again. Now, what if you have that situation?
We don't have any evidence that he did it before.
Okay, well, it's going to be a factual issue.
I'd be happy to do the full Ireland Spectre on these women. I would destroy them on cross. And I'm not an attorney. I would destroy them. The Republicans need to have the courage to do that.
What if they don't?
What proof do you have? Anybody can say anything. Why did it take you 6 days to remember this? How come you had to have these memories came back from regressive psychotherapy? No, it just doesn't pass the smell test. It's not credible. I think we don't know how it plays out because I want to see how she performs in a hearing.
How do you think it'll affect the election? How do you think it's going to affect the women?
It's just too early to say. There's a front page New York Times story who says that if Kavanaugh is confirmed, that women will turn out and vote in record numbers against Republicans. Unproven. That's what's called a theory.
Do you believe
we don't
that?
know that yet.
Do you believe that?
Not necessarily. Just think back historically when Anita Hill criticized Clarence Thomas, a Supreme Court nominee, and she was subjected to a withering cross-examination from Arlen Specter. We were told two things. Thomas would not be confirmed, and Specter would then be defeated in the next election. Guess what? Thomas was confirmed, and Specter won his next re-election. carrying a majority of women. So, I think the Republicans are being cowardly by refusing to directly cross-examine these witnesses and put them to the test. Then we'll see if the American people believe them or whether they see the absence of corroborating evidence or witnesses as troubling. I would think that that's an issue.
What about the fact that she reported this event to a psychotherapist about, I think it was about 8-10 years ago? And that was Kavanaugh was not even a name that anybody ever heard of at that time, unless you were in the legal system.
Well, I'd like to put the psychotherapist under oath and put him on the stand to find out if that's even true, because we don't know that's true. Well, someone comes out of the woodwork with no evidence. I don't know. It's like judges say, how will this trial come out when we haven't had the trial yet? It's hard to say. It's an open question.
You also mentioned in your book, and you might have even mentioned it on the last time we had an interview, that you don't believe there's anything to this Russia investigation. And I kind of agreed with you in the sense that I commented, at the moment, we have seen nothing. And we decide cases as judges on evidence, admissible evidence, as a matter of fact, and burdens of proof. So at the moment, there's nothing. You may be right. What if there is evidence that comes out that there was such a business activity going along between the Russians and the Trump people? Wouldn't you think that would change the whole paradigm and the whole dynamic?
Well, I'd say two things. First of all, I would admit that there's evidence of Russian meddling in the election. Wasn't necessarily designed to help Donald Trump. In fact, it appears to me to have been ham-handed, poorly organized, badly written, and underfunded. But clearly the Russians were trying to sow dissent. I think their goal was just to get Americans fighting with each other. At various times, their messaging is pro-Hillary, anti-Hillary, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Bernie Sanders, anti-Bernie Sanders. And the little net-based advertising I saw was clearly written by somebody who had English as a second language, so I don't think it was terribly effective. But Russian collusion, that would be coordination, conspiracy, colluding with the Trump campaign, there's no evidence of that. Now, one thing you learn in politics that maybe you don't learn in law is you don't answer hypothetical questions. What if? Well, that hasn't happened. 2 years and $17 million investigation, and there's still no evidence of Russian collusion. I think that this is it's a left-wing conspiracy theory. It's a canard. It's a fairy tale.
Are you saying that there's really no admissible evidence to support any such argument? Or are you just saying you don't know?
I've seen none. No, we've had $17 million in a 2-year investigation. We still haven't seen any. We've seen evidence of Russian meddling. That's not Russian collusion. It's a very different ball of wax.
Would you be surprised if evidence was discovered that showed such a relationship existed?
Judge, there is evidence. Bill and Hillary took $145 million from the Russian energy company while control of 20% of Russians, of America's enriched uranium was on her desk for approval. I could take that to a grand jury in an hour and get an indictment. There's plenty of evidence, but the special counsel doesn't seem to be interested in crimes by others, only crimes potentially by Donald Trump and his supporters.
So I guess you'd say this is somewhat politically oriented?
When the man who appointed Mueller is exposed as proposing to wear a wire to entrap the President of the United States in order to remove him under the 25th Amendment, yeah, I would say that investigation is suspect. Why is there not a single Republican other than Mueller, who's just a nominal Republican by registration only, but the man who, by the way, muled the uranium samples to Stockholm for the Russians to examine, to close the Uranium One deal that I speak of? I've written a 5,000-word piece on this. You can see it at the Daily Caller. Why are there no Republicans among these prosecutors? Why are they all liberal Democrats, and many of them veterans of Hillary's campaign or Clinton donors? Yeah, I think this is a partisan witch hunt. Look, I've been subjected to it. 12 of my current or former associates have been interrogated by the FBI. 8 of my associates have gone to the grand jury, yet I can tell you with total confidence they will find no evidence of Russian collusion. or WikiLeaks collaboration or any other illegal act pertaining to the 2016 election. Why am I being persecuted? Because I've been a friend of Donald Trump's for 40 years. That's why.
Well, that certainly is an interesting perspective. So Rosenstein was supposedly going to be fired today. I heard on the radio today that didn't happen. Do you think he's going to get canned?
It appears to me to be also an open question, because if he has not been fired, he has not resigned, that means that the people around the president have 4 days to talk him out of firing Rosenstein. You have NBC and Huffington Post and a few others saying, oh, he was only joking. Actually, he was specifically asked if he was joking, and he said, no, this is all memorialized in a memo by Andrew McCabe, who was once the number 2 guy at the FBI. It's very clear that he wasn't joking. Also, the specificity of it, saying, well, I can easily get my cell phone into a meeting with the president without the Secret Service inspecting it because they've never looked at it before. That's pretty specific for a joke that's not very funny. So I think he's busted, and if I know the president at all, I don't think he's very happy. There is an argument that could be made that perhaps the president should not rock the boat until after the election, that it may be seen as, trying to end the investigation of Mr. Mueller. I would argue that the president should do the one thing he has not yet done, go to the American people with an Oval Office address directly from the Oval Office and lay out why he's doing what he's doing. First, I'd talk about the economy. Then I'd lay out whatever steps he's going to take regarding not only Mr. Rosenstein, but the crying need to declassify all of the information pertaining to these FISA warrants. A FISA warrant can only be issued against an American citizen if they're actively engaged in espionage on behalf of a foreign power against the United States. Nobody on whom a FISA warrant was issued meets that criteria. And I think the application documents, which they lied to a judge about, that judge recused himself. He's still never given us a reason why.
I'll ask you one last question, Roger. You think he should fire Sessions?
Very definitely, but probably not until after the election. At this point, it doesn't matter. Sessions he's comatose. He's having no impact whatsoever.
Okay. Well, you certainly are entertaining, Roger, and I learn a lot every time I talk to you. So I appreciate you coming on the show. I wish you well, and I recommend to our listeners that they get your book because they'll learn how to dress. I'm giving up my tie and pocket silk matching now that I've read your book. I'm not going to wear any more baggy pants, and I've got the whole thing blazers only after 6 o'clock,
You learn how to make a martini, too.
Oh, Dick Nixon. We used to call him Dick Nixon. We don't call him Dick anymore. It's Richard M. Nixon now.
That's right.
He used to love those martinis, those gin martinis.
Yes, indeed. All right,
okay, Rod, thanks very much. Talk to you again. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Thank you. All right. There you go. Very cool. Very cool.
Can't say he doesn't have an opinion.
He's awesome, man. I love him. You know what? The one thing about Mr. Stone is that he will give you his opinion, and he is connected to the president. I mean, I had him on my show, Control Chaos, and
which is 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week.
Thank you. I appreciate the plug. And he basically, I asked him, I said, do you still talk to the president? And he goes, no, because people have blocked him from talking to President Trump, but he does get notes here and there and congratulations on interviews and things like that. So he still is sort of connected to the president, but on the outside looking in. But he has some great opinions.
Well, when you talk about that, the reality is if you just observe the president's conduct, it's exactly the way Roger Stone set it forth in his rules. That's never changed. He hasn't changed a whit since the beginning of the campaign. So Roger Stone has had an enormous influence and impact on the decisions that they've made as to how to handle situations. Maybe not on foreign policy or other things of that nature, but in terms of presentation to the public, he certainly has weighed heavily, and I believe he's probably weighing heavily today. Somehow he's getting the message across because nothing's really changing.
He sure is. All right, we'll be back with more from the judge right after this.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
In his book, From the trench to the bench, Judge Herb Dodell demystifies the legal system, including both civil and criminal, the lawyers, the judges, and the process. As a judge, former deputy district attorney, and criminal defense attorney, he knows the legal system. He has the inside information that you need to pick a lawyer, and he's here to give it to you. No matter what you're facing that makes you think you may need a lawyer, Judge Herb will shed valuable light on your situation and reveal your best options and many secrets of how the judicial system actually works. To find out more about how the legal system really works, you can get your copy of Judge Herb Dodell's eye-opening book, From the Trench to the Bench, at Amazon.com.
Well, Roger and I disagree on a few things, I would say.
Well, listen, you know, the one thing we need to do in this society that we're not doing, and I stated it on the golf course last week, is that
when you hit the 290-yard drive?
Yeah, when these guys try to cut in front of me during the round, which is.
But you got a birdie on that hole.
I did. I hit a 290 drive, but I said, you know what? You got to respect each other and be able to agree to disagree with respect for one another's opinion.
Well, you know, I've heard Roger now several times. I've talked to him and everything. And even though I don't necessarily agree with some of his views, which I'll talk about, you know, I want to identify them from his book, because it's exactly what you see is going on right now. He's a professional. The guy has always been very courteous. He has not been argumentative. He doesn't yell and scream at you. He is willing to listen, and he dresses so well. He had some great pictures in there. He's really nattily attired all the time.
Yeah, and the thing is that he even says that Trump's making mistakes. So he's not just kissing Donald Trump's ass totally. He's saying, hey, Donald Trump should be doing this, this, and that. So, I mean, he's given his opinion, which is, and he is connected to the president.
Oh, he's connected to more than just the president.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying he's very well connected to President Trump.
But what he says too, is the higher you get up on the flagpole, the more people can see your ass. That's what he put in his book.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
He had some interesting. He had a great story about Satchmo Armstrong. He says, you talk about miracles. You know, I believe in miracles. Miracles are not really miracles. They just unexpectedly happen.
Exactly.
And he tells this great story about Armstrong was coming into the country, and he had 3 pounds of weed in his luggage, and he used to get waved by all the time. You know, nobody ever bothered to ask or anything like that. Well, he's on the line, and all of a sudden they're calling him to the side. They're going to look in his bag, right? And he's saying to himself, it's jail. You know, 3 pounds. You those days.
Oh, you're going to jail for a while.
Those days, yes. Not so much today.
No, but still, you're still going to jail even today, but back then.
Different standard, different kinds of drugs.
Major jail time.
And all of a sudden, he was getting closer to the time that I was about to inspect it, and Nixon walks in the door at the airport. He says, what do you mean? He doesn't have to. I'm going to even carry his bags. Looking for the publicity and all that. So he picked up the 2 bags
of weed
and walked out the door. And Armstrong said later to a friend, he says, that was a miracle.
That is a miracle.
And so, you know, miracles do happen.
Yes, they do.
And the reality is, he said, I wrote him down. He says, deny everything. Don't give up.
Deny everything?
Deny everything. Anybody that makes any allegations, deny it.
Really?
Doesn't make it. There's a great story in the book. I actually had heard the story. I may have even seen it on television. It was a story where a guy was in bed with some other woman, and the wife walks in the door. And she sees the husband in bed with this other woman, and she starts to complain. He says, what other woman?
What other woman?
Yeah.
It's your imagination. There is no one there.
So I wrote that. He also says, give people names. Crooked Hillary.
Right.
Lion Ted.
Lion Ted, Loeb,
Bush.
Jeb.
But this is what this is in Roger's book.
Little Marco.
Give him names. He says.
Really?
Yeah, give him names.
This is crazy. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
That's wild.
I also didn't know when we interviewed him the last time, and he told us how Trump won Michigan. I didn't realize that either. He had gotten 14,000 more votes than McCain or Romney, and he won the state by 10,000 votes from the inner part of Detroit. I mean, I never thought of that before.
That's amazing.
But he knew. He really does. He said, give him names. Next thing, counterattack. When attacked, make sure to counterattack and deny everything beforehand.
This is out of Trump's playbook.
This is right out of his book. It's called Stone's rules.
It's Trump's rules and Stone's rules. I mean, Then
he says, provide disinformation if confronted. In other words, lie.
Yeah.
In fact, he says basically, and it kind of confirms the old Machiavellian conversation we had the last time and even today. The end justifies the means. From his perspective, say anything, truthful or not truthful, it makes no difference. As long as it gets the point across to the people that are out there. Make sure, he says, you make news, come up with stories to get attention all the time if you're running for office. Avoid jealousy with the old. I can't remember my writing. With the old bulls, the old establishment.
Right.
Don't piss them off so much.
Yeah.
He says, play dumb. I don't think the president does that.
Oh, I think he does sometimes.
Never betray the base. Now that makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah.
And he refers to in the book to Goebbels. For those of you who are not old enough to remember who he was, Joseph Goebbels was Nazi
he was
propaganda
a Nazi,
guy. He was Hitler's guy.
Yeah.
And they lived by the big lie.
Yeah.
They say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Pretty soon people start to believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's in his book. He says that's what you do.
That's amazing,
Judge. That's why this fake news thing, you hear it over and over and over again.
Yeah, fake news. Everything's fake news.
And the press and whatever, the fact of the matter is we have a free press, and thankfully we do.
Yes,
and
we do.
The fact that certain people are spending more money to promote it or have control over networks or whatever it is, that's just a function of our financial world. The right wing, the left wing, they're in a competitive market.
They both spend billions of dollars on
competitive
propaganda.
Market.
Yeah.
He says, keep moving. That's another one of his things. Make sure you keep on moving. And of course, you always hear the expression, you can't hit a moving target.
Right.
Never go on the defense.
Always on the offense.
Always on it. He says, if you're on the defense, you're losing. I don't agree with that either. A lot of good football games are won by the defense.
Exactly.
A good blocked punt is something like that. A good defense can win.
Kavanaugh's on the defense.
Yeah, be vocal. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Be vocal. Well, we certainly know that. Be aggressive, because people do not trust people who are passive. If you're too passive,
they run over you.
Nobody's going to believe you.
They run over you if you're too passive. That's what I'm talking about with me, man. I tell it like it is, and I'm not passive at all. And sometimes that's intimidating to people, though.
Well, see, I don't. He poo-pooed the thing with Manafort. I don't poo-poo the thing with Manafort at all.
Right.
He made a deal ultimately because he had no choice. He was either going to spend the rest of his life in the can or he was going to make a deal. I got to believe that Manafort knows the relationships that existed at the time, whatever they may have been. I'm not going to render an opinion because there's not enough information before me.
Manafort's the key, Judge, to the whole Russia investigation.
Maybe.
I really believe it. I really do believe it.
May very well be. But getting back to Kavanaugh, I think there's such a political risk to the Republicans if they don't let Professor Ford and this lady Ramirez, if they allow her at all. I'm not sure they will, because that's pretty thin. She doesn't remember anything. And hers is kind of weak.
Yeah, that was weak.
I might even grant a motion if it was a preliminary hearing.
Yeah, what would you do, Judge?
I probably wouldn't hold them to answer.
All right, but you
not on that.
Not on that, but Ford, yes.
I don't know enough about the facts. I do know the most important fact to me was that she made a statement when she had no motive to make a statement. And she had no reason to attack this guy 10 years ago when he wasn't nominated for anything. He was just a very competent, qualified judge. Nobody's arguing about that. He's a competent, qualified judge. He probably qualifies. And this is just another character issue, if there's an issue at all. But the reality is the Democrats want to make sure he doesn't get on that court. And the Republicans want to make sure that he's there for the next 30 years. That this is a fight in the trenches for all the marbles. This one really matters. And if there is, under the evidence code in California, Section 1101 through 05, if there's enough prior experiences, which I mentioned on a show not too long ago, a jury may be permitted to hear about the prior experience. It's called common scheme and plan. And they can draw a conclusion, just as I said to Roger. You did it before. You've done it several times before. So that serves as an inference that if you did that, then you did it this time too.
Well, this is what Bill Cosby got nailed on.
He's going to be sentenced this week.
Exactly, but that's what happened in this second trial.
Yeah, we talked about that when we had the investigator here.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, if I was sitting on that case and knowing what I know, and I may not know all of it, probably don't, I wouldn't have let it in because it's so prejudicial and it's so damning, and there's no real evidentiary proof. There's an inference that you get out of that because he did this, because somebody said that he did this. I personally wouldn't have let it in.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, when he was, I guess, when they filed a civil lawsuit against him back 10 years ago, and he said that he had given women Quaaludes, would you have let that in? When in his deposition, he basically stated that he had given women Quaaludes before.
It probably confirms what this witness was saying or this party was saying. And so if he admitted it prior in another occasion, it tends to be confirmative or what we call corroboration. And that probably was okay to let in.
Okay.
I don't know the legal issues about the deal that they made. It wasn't going to be in. They weren't going to use it. That's another issue.
Yeah.
And as I said, and I don't know what's going to happen. He's going to be sentenced this week. Then you'll get the notice of appeal because you wait till the sentencing. And so the result is going to be they're going to make that argument. And if his argument flies, it'll be reversed, and they'll either retry him. And they mentioned he's 81 years old and blind.
Please.
They're not going to retry.
Do you think he's going to, let me ask you something, because I was talking about this on the show today, on my show. Do you think he's going to do any jail time? What's your thought on it?
He may get some detention. I wouldn't say they're going to put him in the joint. The joint is called the state prison.
Right.
I don't think they're going to do anything like that.
Not even like 6 months or something? You don't think they're going to make an example out of him?
What are they going to do with him for 6 months?
Well, I mean,
what are they going to put him? They're going to put him out there on the farm cultivating tomatoes? I mean, there's no chance that the guy's going to do anything except sit in a room.
He can do comedy shows. He can entertain the inmates.
Well, there's an old rule. There's a rule that the criminals cannot take advantage of any of the crimes they committed by writing a book about it. They don't get to keep the money. I never wondered about, I shouldn't say I never wondered. I always wondered about the constitutionality of that. But that's the general rule as I understand it. But Kavanaugh, the Republicans taking a big chance. A lot of women will be very upset if it looks like she didn't get her day in court.
All right, let me ask you a quick question. Do you think that his nomination will go through, or will he step down? Do you think he'll step down?
No, he's never going to step down.
He's not going to step down. Okay, so do you think the nomination will go through?
It depends on 3 senators, Murkowski, Collins, and Flake. Flake's not running for re-election, so he doesn't care. Murkowski comes from Alaska. I don't know if that's a real issue among the women in Alaska. Susan Collins has always been a moderate on a lot of things. She was on the fence on the health care. She seems like a very nice person, a person who cares about people's rights. She would fall into your respect, and
right.
I think she respects everybody.
I agree.
I like her very much. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but I like what she stands for, and she wanted to make sure she got a fair shot. If they're perceived as railroading this through for their own agenda, a lot of women may just come out and vote against the Trump candidates.
I saw some women protesting on Balboa and Van Owen today.
What are they protesting?
They had a sign about Kavanaugh saying, "We believe Dr. Ford."
What do they know?
Well, I'm just saying.
You know what?
What do we know?
If you were to ask me today, do I believe her, and what do you think the answer is? I have no idea.
Yeah, I was going to say no comment.
No idea.
Exactly.
You hear the evidence.
I hear it.
If you don't have the evidence, it doesn't happen.
We got to take a break.
Okay.
KCAA. Did you ever meet a lawyer that was for the people? Someone who had the best interests of the people at heart? Herb Dodell has been a lawyer for more than 50 years and has been a Superior Court judge for 9 years, having presided over more than 9,000 cases. In this show, he will reveal the secrets of how things really work in the legal system, so you can maximize your position and benefit most when you're in trouble and need someone on your side to simplify the process for you. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Look, I was thinking about what Roger was talking about, and the reality here is he didn't use the word when he was talking about the establishment and the both parties working together and all that. The real word is corruption, because if they're doing things for their own self-interest, most of the time it's just to get reelected. It reminds me of a show called Ozark.
Okay.
We binged on Ozark this weekend.
What is Ozark?
Like nine episodes.
What?
It was about
what is it?
putting a casino on the river down in Missouri, and it was being sponsored or financed by the cartel. And it was all political how it was going to get in, and then the Teamsters were involved, and they wanted to make sure that didn't happen because it affected another one of their properties. This was all behind-the-scenes deals. People getting killed left and right, by the way. But the fact of the matter is that it was ultimately, they built it, this casino, and it was all corrupt. All the approvals that got made, people got taken care of. The hands got greased. This one got that one. One case, they had blackmail on somebody, said if you don't vote our way, all of a sudden this is what you're going to see. That's what goes on in the real world today. I don't care whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. They're all the same.
I agree 100% on that.
Unless we can eliminate corruption, and that's something that's been going on now for thousands of years, unless we can do something about changing our consciousness to do the right thing, and corruption is not the right thing, we're going to be in the same chaotic world we're in right now. We can change this. We can change it by doing good things for other people, by doing the right thing, by electing people who are going to vote not only their conscience, but to vote what's good for the people. Taking bribes and putting cash in the boxes and everything else is not the way we need to go. But who am I to stand on a soapbox? It ain't going to happen from just talking about it.
What station is it on, or what is it on HBO?
Ozark is Netflix.
Netflix, okay. Well, I don't get Netflix.
It's the Bateman and Laura Linney, I think.
Oh, okay, Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman, yeah.
And Laura Linney.
Yeah, it was very, very well done.
Okay, cool. That's great.
So that's it, huh, for today?
No, we got about another minute to go.
Oh, well, tell me about your golf game.
Well, I don't want to talk about my
Other than
golf
you got a
game.
290. I mean, how many people are you going to tell? How many yards is it going to get?
No, I just listen.
Week?
There was just a disrespect factor when I was talking about, like, I was playing golf. I was talking to the judge off the air about this, and I was playing golf last week, and we were waiting every shot from shot 1 to shot 82, which I shot. And at the ninth, you make the turn after the ninth hole, and we went to go get lunch because that was part of the deal. So, we waited like 5 minutes to get the lunch and all that, and we went to the 10th tee, and the guys in back of us teed off, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why are you guys teeing off in front of us? Why are you going in front of us? And the guy got up and says, hey, man, chill out, man. Chill out. You don't have to get all upset about it. And I go, no, man, you know what? I'm tired of this disrespect factor that human society shows upon. All you had to do was, ask me about going ahead of us, and we probably would have let you go. But instead, you just took it upon yourself. And that's the point I made to those guys, is that, you know what? You got to respect each other. And, what's wrong with our society is that we need to agree to disagree with respect, and to respect each other and our opinions and our thoughts.
And by the way, I just want to mention one other thing about Kavanaugh. When they have these hearings on Thursday, there is no real burden of proof here.
Okay.
Is it more likely than not is probably the way it would go. It's certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's certainly not by clear and convincing evidence. So it'll be interesting to see when the facts come out, which side jumps on the facts that support their
It's a witch
position.
hunt. We got to go, Judge.
Okay.
All right.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business? The American Business Trust Company has the answers you need. The American Business Trust Company can help you start up with capital, business strategy, sales, and marketing, and establish your company with a physical location or an online presence on the internet. You decide. You bring the idea. Then American Business Trust can help with the rest. For a free evaluation, visit them online at abtrustco.com. That's abtrustco.com. Or call them at 657-600-1876. That's American Business Trust Company, 657-600-1876. Call them today. They'll help your business right away. That's American Business Trust Company. Online at abtrustco.com. American Business Trust Company.
Do you have any questions about legal issues? Have you ever been stopped by a police officer and issued a ticket that you're scared to deal with? Have you ever been in trouble with the law and don't know what to do? Do you have a will or power of attorney question? Is your home being foreclosed upon and you don't know where to turn? Maybe you were given a contract that you don't understand. For freedom and a worry-free solution, call for Legal Shield today at 213-245-1305. It's that simple. You will have access to high-quality law firms that will fight for you for less than $1 a day. Peace of mind is just a call away. That's for Legal Shield. Call 213-245-1305 or visit us at nocourt.us. It's justice for all and not justice for some. So, you want to be in show business. Do people tell you that you're really funny, you have a great personality, and you should have your own talk show? Many of us have been told that, but we don't know how to get started. It's easier than you think. Let the pros at Cali Vegas give you a free talent evaluation. Call 949-445-1119 and learn how quickly you can create, produce, and host your very own talk show. Imagine not having to sit in traffic every day, commuting back and forth to the same old boring job. Get started in television or radio today with your free talent evaluation from Cali Vegas. Call 949-445-1119 or visit them online at calivegas.com. Make your dream come true today and create your new career and learn how to become a television or radio star with the help of Cali Vegas. 949-445-1119. Call now. Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business?